Hello, my name's David Webb, and on this video I'm going to show you how to paint some still life subjects in watercolour. We're going to start with some nice colourful fruit and vegetables first, which I've arranged in front of me. Okay, then I've got my pencil outline all drawn out. I'm not trying to get a sort of photographic, realistic look. This is just an outline, it's just a guide for me. So now we're ready to start painting. I've got a few colours squeezed out of my palette. Got some raw sienna, burnt umber, ultramarine and some light red. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with that brown paper first. I'll mix up a little burnt umber to begin with. Some nice shadows on that paper. I think some burnt umber and a little raw sienna. I want a nice loose wash first to go right over that paper. Mix up enough colour. It's always wise to mix up plenty of colour before you start. You don't want to get halfway through the painting and then discover that you've run out of paint halfway. So I always make sure I've got plenty to do the job. Load up the brush with plenty of colour. As I said before, there's loads of creases in this paper where I've screwed it up, but I'm not going to paint every single one. It's the main shadows I'm going to put in. But I'll start off with a light wash first. Just let that flow right across the page. Round the pear there, and where that sort of big puddle is there, I'm going to soak that up. If I leave that where it is, this area here will start to dry out and we'll get what is known as a cauliflower. So what I do is I get rid of all the excess moisture off the brush, and if I just touch that on there, you'll see that just disappears up into the brush. Gone. I think I'll just drop in a little ultramarine here, some shadow down here, that'll do. I'll put some more in later, but this is just an initial wash. Bring that right across the brown paper. Okay, carry that shadow down here. And under the paper there. Up to the edge of the orange there. And what I want to do is paint in the big shadow on the left hand side. And for that I'll mix some burnt umber with some ultramarine. It's a fairly cool shadow there, so I'll mix more ultramarine in there. That should do. Nice big shadow down this side. I can see that shadow starts way over here, just below the top of the pear there. Gets a bit warmer in tone, this shadow, as it meets the paper, so I'll add a little more burnt umber into the shadow. As I say, I like to often mix colours on the page, so I'll put that brown in there to warm that shadow up, just about there. Go around the onion skin there, down the left hand side here, down to the top of the orange. There's a few shadows here created by that onion skin. I'll just soak up these little puddles here so that we don't get any drying marks. And now I'll wait for this first wash to dry completely before I go on with the second washes. Okay, that first wash is now dry, so it's ready to start with the next wash. I'm going to start with this nice big shiny red pepper over here. There's some nice bright highlights there. I'm going to leave the paper unpainted there, it's going to be untouched. So I don't use white paint, we let the paper do the work and just let those highlights shine through there. So I'll mix up some cadmium red side here. Careful to leave a few highlights. Soak up the excess paint on the brush there, gives me a bit more control. soften the edges of some of those highlights there. So what I do is I clean the brush out, dry it off a bit, and then just run the damp brush along the highlights there, and that'll give us a nice sort of softer edge. I'll put some shadows on to that pepper later on, but I need to let it dry completely first. Okay, now that our pepper's dry, I'm going to paint that nice green stalk on the top there. I'm going to mix some lemon yellow, and to that I'm going to add some ultramarine. A little tip for mixing colours is, if you're mixing a dark colour and a light colour, always mix up your light colour first and then gradually add the dark colour to it, because it's easy for the dark colour to actually sort of swamp the lighter colour. So gradually add small parts to it until you've got the strength of colour that you need. That's it, that's the colour I'm looking for. Paint that right over the area of the pepper stalk. That's it. Now next I'm going to paint this sort of Cox's apple underneath there. The apple's got some highlights, but unlike the pepper, it's got none of these sort of bright white highlights. It's got a light area on the right hand side here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some lemon yellow across that apple, and then I'm going to add some more colours to that wet in wet. Because you can see the lemon yellow is quite cool, and we're going to add some warmer colours into that and mix them on the page. Add a little red. That sort of warms that apple up down this side. Lift out some colour there for the lighter area on the top. I want to put some more red down this left hand side here. Just drop that in and then just work that in. Put the overall wash on first. I think I'll come back to that when it's dry. I'll carry on with the rest of the fruit for now. I think I'll start with that pear. That's quite dulling in comparison with the pepper. Again, I'll start with some lemon yellow. It's a similar colour to the stalk, not quite as green. I'll flood some colour over there. It's a bit of a highlight just about here. And there's some quite heavy shadow down the left hand side, and I think I'll drop in some shadow while it's still wet. A little ultramarine and some burnt umber, I think. Give me some dark tone to go in here. That's it. It's quite heavy shadow here. But I want a sort of soft outline, which is why I'm dropping it in wet into wet. It's okay. Now I just want to let that dry completely before I start on the next fruit there. Okay, those colours are now dry. I want to start on this nice red onion here. I'm going to mix, I think, some cadmium red. I think to that I'm going to add ultramarine. Yeah, that looks pretty close for that first wash. I might actually wet that area first before I put some paint on. Some clean water on the brush. You can see I've got two jars here for working with. This one, the dirty one, is for washing out the brush, and the one that I actually mix the colours with and put on the paper is a nice clean one. That's it. So I load up my brush with just clean water and wash this over the area of the onion. The onion's got a sort of soft, silky shine to it. I'll just drop this colour in. A little more red, I think. That's it. You see I've created that sort of soft highlight there. Bring that down to the top of the orange, give that a nice hard edge as it contrasts with the orange colour. A little more red dropped in there, slightly redder in places. And the top of the onion there is a little lighter, so I'll quickly rinse the brush out. Again, remove the excess moisture from the brush and then just lift out a little bit of that. That's it. I'll just let that dry now.